You're live.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Good to be with you. Let's begin with a short meditation. And let's shadow. Open your mind and your essence of being to the infinite. However, that ultimate reality we call God is known or imagined, know it to be omnipresent, everywhere present. And therefore we are included in it, now and at all times. And let your breathing flow smoothly and easily. And notice that when your breathing is slow and calm, your mind becomes calm and your emotions become settled. Om peace. All right. Can you hear me all right? Is the sound all right?
Yes, it is.
All right. This morning or today, it's afternoon there, I will talk for a while about the benefits of discipleship, that is, being a good disciple. The word disciple is from Latin, and it means one who is a learner or who is a student. And for our purposes, a student and a learner of truth principles, or how to live effectively, and how to cultivate or nurture our spiritual growth or awakening. I've emphasized before that the importance of knowing why we're in this world. Our major purpose for being in this world is to awaken to our spiritual awareness, or our spiritual self, our true nature. Since we are essentially spiritual beings, it's important that we learn to awaken to the stage of knowing that we are spiritual beings, that we are not merely human creatures trying to become spiritual, but that we are spiritual beings. And the reason we are spiritual beings is that we are units or individualized aspects of a pure essence of an ultimate reality, which many people refer to as God. Of course, there are, in different languages, in different cultures, different words are used for that one reality, which is omnipresent, everywhere present, and omniscient, everywhere knowing. It knows everything. And it is omnipotent, or it is the only power. So our emphasis is that there is only one reality. That's why this approach is called monotheism, or one reality, one God. And so there is only one reality, not two. So there cannot be an evil force or a force in contest with the will or the intention of that reality we call God. So to be a disciple or a learner or on the spiritual path, we have to have a sufficient intelligence to comprehend the teachings that we are given, or the information that we acquire. We have to be reasonably intelligent, and we also have to be willing, be curious enough and willing enough to apply what we learn to have our personal experience. For instance, we can know about the value of health practices, of exercising, diet, and regular sleep and rest. But if we don't exercise adequately, and if we don't eat properly, and if we don't rest adequately, we're not going to be healthy. We may know how to be healthy, but if we don't follow through and have a balanced lifestyle that supports health, then we won't be healthy. Same way with spiritual awakening. We may know how to pray. We may know what we should do, but we don't do it. If we don't do it, we won't have the results that we want to have. So we have to be willing to follow through and use the knowledge that we acquire if we're going to be successful in living and successful in nurturing or cultivating spiritual awareness. I was fortunate when I was 18 years of age, and that's almost 70 years ago, but not quite. I was fortunate at that age to read Paramahamsa Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and then to go to California where he lived and to be accepted for discipleship training by him. And then I spent 4 years in intensive practice of meditation and some yoga procedures. But I learned by participation how to meditate and how to acquire not worthwhile knowledge, and how to be self-disciplined, self-controlled, how to master my thinking and my behaviors. You know, we talk about the idea of of acquiring what we call spiritual or personal mastership. But what we really mean is learning to control our states of mind and our states of consciousness and our behaviors. And we don't have to be spiritually enlightened to live right, to behave properly. We can live right and behave properly even before we are very spiritually conscious. In fact, right living, healthy living, constructive living, and ideal proper behavior, these provide a good foundation for spiritual growth. In most religious traditions or systems, there is emphasis on the importance of moral or ethical living. Honesty, truthfulness, harmlessness, not grasping at things or people or circumstances, and cultivation of inner calmness and peace of mind. Even before a person is taught how to pray and meditate, when they get on a spiritual path, they are encouraged to think constructively, live constructively, be ethical, and do all of the right things that will ensure a harmonious life. Then, when the emotions are settled and the mind is no longer confused, it is easier to experience spiritual awakening and spiritual growth to maturity or to the fullest extent possible. So I was fortunate when I was very young to have that opportunity to be very focused in my practice, and that has been helpful to me through the various years that followed. But I am still focused on doing what I should do. I meditate every day. I endeavor to control my mental attitude and my emotions, and I endeavor to live in the right way, eat in the right way, and so on. Eventually it becomes natural and spontaneous, and it's no longer an effort. We no longer have to struggle to do the right thing. We just naturally do what is right, and we get in the flow of life, and that is very useful. Once we know how to live and how to pray and how to meditate, then we have only to persist. That is, keep going in the right way with patience. One definition of being patient is to maintain emotional calmness and stability at all times. We want to be self-realized. We want to be able to accomplish our purposes effectively. We want to be successful in life. And sometimes a little time is required for us to learn how to do that and for conditions to emerge or unfold to enable us to experience fulfillment. And while that is happening, we can always be inwardly calm and poised. That's being patient. But persistence, never giving up, that's important. Once we know we are on the right track, to stay with it in the right way, that is a virtue. That is very, very helpful. Now, everyone is destined to eventually be spiritually enlightened or fully spiritually awake. That is a matter of destiny. No one can miss that. Everyone will eventually be spiritually enlightened, but for some people it will take longer than for others. But just the same, everyone will eventually be spiritually enlightened. And the reason for that is because everyone is, at the deepest level of being, a spiritual being. And so our spiritual enlightenment is simply a matter of awakening to conscious awareness or realization of what we are at that deeper level, at the inmost level of our being. All knowledge and all abilities to function successfully are within us. And when our inner qualities are allowed to express, when they become expressive, we say actualize, when they become real in outer manifestation, and when our inner knowledge is revealed, then we are spiritually enlightened. So really awakening to that stage of spiritual enlightenment is really a process of self-revelation, of a revealing of what we didn't know, so that now that we know it, we know what we are. And thus we call that self-realization. The word self we use in this instance, an uppercase or a capital S, we use to refer to the true nature, the true essence of our being, as in contrast to ordinary self-consciousness, which is egocentric or personality-oriented. Many people, if you ask them, what are you, or who are you, they'll say, well, and they will describe their personality characteristic, their ancestry, and so on. But they are describing conditions that relate to their body and mind and personality. They are not pointing to what they really are as an immortal spirit. So we came into this world where we're born into the physical body, and we are here for several decades, several years, 70, 80, 90, perhaps years or so. And then we depart from the physical body, but we continue to live. And all religious traditions have a doctrine of what is called life after the physical incarnation experience. And so we know that we will continue to live. The proof that we exist is our awareness of existence. We know that we exist. We are conscious. Therefore, we exist. And because we exist now, I believe we can know that we have always existed, even though we may not have any memory of experiences before this physical birth. Still, we are immortal spiritual beings because we know that we are. And I'm sure we've all had the experience, especially as we grow older and get into our 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and older. And we look in the mirror and we say, well, my physical body is changing. My personality characteristics are somewhat different, but at the deeper level, I'm still me. There's something in me that does not change. And that something is the real us, the real essence of being that never changes. Self-realization is experience and knowledge of our essence, of our true changeless nature. Because realization is defined as experience and knowledge of something. Self-realization is experience and knowledge of our true essence. God realization, or realization of this ultimate supreme reality, is experience and knowledge of it. And we can have both self-realization and realization of that ultimate or higher reality. It is possible for us to know, to experience our relationship with it, and to know it as it is. Until we know it as it is, as the result of experience, usually we just have ideas about it and opinions. But that's usual in the beginning. We begin to try to understand this ultimate reality, and we are used to using our mind and our mental pictures and mental concepts. But when we realize what it is beyond the ability of the mind to picture or to imagine. But it is possible to actually experience it as it is. All right. I've asked Sabina to provide me with some questions that I might answer during this session today. Here at our headquarters in America, when we have retreats, in the mornings we meditate together and I talk for a while, and then I invite the people who are participating, who are attending, I invite them to write questions or inquiries that I can respond to so that we can have sort of an interactive, more personal relationship, and it will enable me to discuss matters that are of interest and hopefully will be helpful to the people who are present. So one of the questions we have is, what is the ideal relationship between our personal intention to live right and to awaken spiritually? What is our relationship between our intention to live right and awaken spiritually and surrender to God? This question comes up about my will and God's will. How do I know what is my will and what is God's will? How do I know God's will, or how can I know God's will? Well, we are endowed with intelligence and creative abilities, and I think we are supposed to learn to use our intelligence wisely and to use our creative abilities wisely, but at the same time, it is helpful to be receptive to guidance that might come to us from within, creative ideas, inspirational guidance we can have that. And also we can sometimes see around us opportunities that are provided for us, and we can choose to go along with them or not. And there we have freedom of choice. And if we make the right choice, when good opportunities are provided, then we have more good fortune. So I think it's a combination that we have as responsible spiritual beings. We have the capacity to use our imagination and use our will wisely, act wisely. At the same time, we can also be open to the possibility of being inspired and led from within, and also of seeing opportunities in our everyday life or that will be of benefit if we cooperate with them. So it seems to me that there is a larger intelligence, a one intelligence, which is present in our world, with which we can have a conscious relationship. And my experience has been, during the last 70 years or so, the more receptive I am to support and guidance from this larger reality, the more good fortune that I have without having to exert so much personal effort. So it is an awareness of it, of participating with a larger reality. And we acquire experience as we go along. We can't always explain this to anyone else, but we can experience for ourselves this relationship with this larger reality, and we can encourage others to also open themselves to the possibility of experiencing that relationship. But of course, my basic teaching emphasis is what is called KRİYA yoga, and I'm sure Sabia has explained some of the basic KRİYA yoga principles. Now, the words KRİYA and yoga are Sanskrit words. If we use plain English or words in your own language to explain these principles, we observe that the teachings are just practical, common sense teachings. The word KRİYA in Sanskrit simply means an action or process or procedure, something we do to have constructive or positive results. And the word yoga, in the ultimate definition of yoga, is the holding together of our attention and awareness, either with an object of being observed, something observed or perceived, or with our essence of being. For instance, when you're meditating and you're very peaceful, you may experience have an experience of, for a while, of almost being completely absorbed or identified with a very pleasant sensation of peacefulness, inner joy, contentment. And after that experience, you have the memory of that. You will say, oh, for a while, it felt that I was that. But of course you weren't that, but you were identified with it. So that is a partial experience of yoga or unification, but it is with something that is changeable, something that is not permanent. It's beneficial because it allows you to experience peace of mind and emotional calmness, and a degree of serenity and self-understanding perhaps, but it does not last, it does not persist, because it is supported by that perception, by that experience that you are having, that sensation. But when you get to the next stage, what is called transcendence, when your attention is not involved with anything external, not even your emotions or your good feelings, but there's only the awareness of existence, pure being. And there can be a sense of exhilaration or joyousness with that, but it is freedom, absolute freedom. And there is nothing that supports that. And then you come out of that state, and then you remember that, and your awareness is more clear, your mind is more pure, your understanding has improved, and you realize that has been very, very worthwhile. That is called the highest samadhi, or highest yoga, the highest unification or blending of awareness and attention with your essence of being. That provides complete satisfaction, complete inner peacefulness, and really a sense of soul satisfaction. So Kriya Yoga is simply the way of right thinking, right living, right meditation practice that results in spiritual enlightenment. So we don't have to use the Sanskrit words to understand the importance of right living, right thinking, right spiritual practice. So, and I mentioned earlier, as a foundation, the importance of ethical or moral living and the cultivation of inner peacefulness at all times. Even in the Yoga Sutra, which is the basic scripture on Kriya Yoga practice, even before meditation is explained, there is emphasis on the importance of learning to be self-content or have contentment based on his inner awareness of being at all times, even in the midst of active conditions or circumstances. So we can cultivate mental and emotional peacefulness even before we are spiritually enlightened. Another question comes up. How can we use our intellectual abilities skillfully to benefit others and society? Well, first we use our intellectual abilities to help ourselves to live effectively, but also we want to be useful in the world. We want to benefit others and our society and our planet. And it's also important to realize the more spiritually conscious we are, the more wisely functional we are, the more we contribute to the well-being of society and to the planet. Because if we are spiritually aware and we are living in the right way, and our life is wholesome and purposeful, everything that we influence is going to be benefited. Other people are going to benefit from our pure state of consciousness. from our positive mental attitude, from our positive emotional states. And if we are spiritually conscious, spiritually enlightened, because everyone shares what is called a collective consciousness, that is, the combined consciousness of everyone on the planet. When we are spiritually enlightened, we help to purify or brighten or illumine the collective consciousness of the planet. So we may not see immediate changes in other people as the result of our improved spiritual awareness, but inwardly we can know that the more conscious we are, our true nature, the more we are silently benefiting the world, the collective consciousness of the planet. But it's important for us to develop our intellectual capacities, to learn to discriminate or discern accurately, and not only to solve problems, to think rationally and arrive at good conclusions as a result of our thinking, but also to analyze what we are in relationship to our thoughts and our emotions and our physical bodies. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and I'm sure this teaching is found in other religious traditions, Patanjali mentions that self-realization or realization of our true nature can be accomplished two ways. One, with the use of intelligence, the intellect, discerning the difference between what we are and what we are not. We are not the body, we are not the personality, we are not the mind. We are that which observes. We are the observer, the witness, that changeless unit of awareness. That is what we are. And even before we actually experience that, we can use our intelligence to understand that that is how it is. And so using our intelligence efficiently can enable us to be self-realized, but also through prayer and meditation, quieting of the mind and the emotions, and clearing of our awareness, we can actually experience what we are. This provides us the opportunity to experience what we are. Ordinarily, if we are not aware of our true nature, ordinarily we are involved with restless mental activity and changing emotion. We all know that as human beings, that our thoughts are constantly being stirred up, and there are wave-like movements occurring in our mind and awareness, and our attention is being just moved here and there, and it's not always easy to concentrate on one thing. But when we meditate efficiently, the body is relaxed, the emotions are settled, the mind becomes calm, and our awareness becomes clear. And we have an opportunity to actually experience what it is like to be in that very clear, self-observant state of consciousness. But it's not a condition that we create. We don't forcibly cause this state of consciousness or this viewpoint. It is simply there all the time. And when the thoughts are settled and the emotions are settled, and we stay alert and conscious, then we can experience what we are. Be very peaceful, observant, insightful, and at a deeper level, very satisfied just by being what we are. So that's the advantage of right meditation or effective meditation practice. But we don't want to rule out the importance of developing our intellect. In fact, in yoga philosophy, we say that the first problem that caused self-forgetfulness or caused us to forget our true nature and our relationship with the infinite was an intellectual error where we mistakenly presumed ourselves to be this small viewpoint, this small egocentric sense of self-identity, and we thought, and we identified with it and forgot our true nature. And in many religious traditions, I know it's true in Islam, there is great emphasis on the importance of avoiding this problem of self and God forgetfulness. So many times in ordinary human endeavors, we become so involved with ourselves, our personality characteristics, and with other people, and with events that change. We become so involved outwardly that we forget our true nature, and we forget our relationship with this large reality we call God. That is why in many religious traditions they have this practice of devotional prayer and meditation. In Islam, you pray 5 times a day. In some Christian traditions, it's recommended to pray at least 3 times a day. In fact, in many traditions, it is recommended to go beyond that and to always be conscious of our relationship with the infinite, so that we don't have to have separate time set aside to do that. When I first met my teacher, Paramsa Yogananda, in 1949, it was the holy season in America in December, and I had a private interview with him on December 25, 1949. I asked him then if I could be his disciple, his student, his learner, and he said yes. And then he advised me on what to read, he advised me how often to meditate, and how to fit in with the monastic community. There were about 20 other young men there at the time at the ashram. And then his final advice that day was this. After giving me this instruction, he said, read a little and meditate more and think of God all the time. Now, many people ask me, what did he mean, think of God all the time? I'm sure he didn't mean that I should try to mentally analyze what God is, but rather to cultivate an awareness of the presence and the reality of God all the time. Develop that awareness of, I live in it. It is all around me. It is in and through everything. We are not ever apart from it. And when we can cultivate that awareness that we are in this ocean of God, really, the ocean of God's consciousness and reality, then it's a constant awareness, a constant experience. And it's not a matter of sometimes I have it and sometimes I don't. And when we get to that stage of constant awareness of our relationship with the infinite, then we don't have to struggle anymore to try to accomplish that state of awareness. We're always in it. It is never diminished. It doesn't change. And no matter what we do, no matter what our relationships are, we are always in it. And therefore we feel complete and whole and peaceful and in the flow of good fortune or God's will, or what many people call grace. Grace is a term we use to refer to unplanned good fortune that can be ours, as life supports us and provides for us, and opportunities are provided and events occur that are beneficial, and the right people come into our lives at the right time, and the resources that we need are simply there and available for our ability, for our comfort really, and our security, and enabling us to do the things that we want to do and need to do. And then we're in the flow of grace or good fortune. So we do our part up to a certain stage to help ourselves, and then my experience is, and it is also the the testimony of many saintly people through the ages, that when we get to a certain stage of being spiritually awake and living right and thinking right, then we have the support of the universe. We look around us and we see that nature is providing life and support in all of nature. We see the trees and the shrubs and the animals and the beneficial changes that occur in the course of evolution on the planet. Well, I'm convinced that when our understanding is what it should be, and we are living as we should live, then we are supported by life, and everything just happens almost effortlessly and spontaneously. And a question comes up, and this is a common question. When we seem to be making good progress in our spiritual practices, sometimes we may experience frustration, anger, and other negative feelings and thoughts that just occur. How can this be prevented or overcome? People tell me this from time to time. Just last week we had a retreat here at our ashram, our headquarters in North Georgia, and someone mentioned this to me. The person said, well, I have these times when life is just wonderful. I'm peaceful and calm, and everything is working beautifully, and I'm happy. And then every now and then, out of nowhere, suddenly I become very angry and frustrated and negative and resentful, and maybe even envious and jealous and mean-spirited, and I don't like myself when that happens, but I don't know what to do about it. But if I don't do anything, eventually, thankfully, it changes and I get back on course. Well, it just takes practice. Whenever we see a condition like this beginning to occur, we can just sort of take a deep breath, relax, look at it with objectivity, realize it is only a temporary emotional condition, and we don't want to let it dominate us, and not give into it, and not allow our emotions to become depressed and negative. But then we find with practice that we can control our emotions if we want to, if we decide to. We can control our emotions. We can control our thinking. In the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Patanjali has a recommendation for maintaining mental peacefulness and emotional peacefulness, and an awareness of harmonious relationship with others and environmental conditions. And the advice is this: cultivate thoughts and feelings of friendship with everyone and all forms of life. Be thankful for the good fortune that other people have. If we are thankful for the good fortune that other people have, we cannot be envious or jealous or feel any sense of competition or anything like that. So be thankful for the good fortune that other people have. When you see other people who are healthy and happy and wealthy and freely functional, rejoice. Be happy for them. Be happy that is their experience. And then also be happy for your own good fortune. Be thankful for your own good fortune. Even at times when you are challenged, if you could look, you can see where there are experiences in your life which are very fortunate. And be thankful for those occasions of good fortune, for the blessings that you have, for the knowledge that you have, for the peace of mind that you have, for the opportunities that you have. Be thankful and be happy, and cultivate an attitude of optimism and hope and faith. And then, finally, there are these conditions that are constantly changing around us, and I know you are aware of it, and I am. In our part of the world, you watch television, or perhaps you know in your own community, there are occasions of political unrest, occasions of economic uncertainty, and occasions of hardship in society. And sometimes if we are too overly exposed to that or see too much of it, we become pessimistic and fearful and perhaps cynical and somewhat depressed. And we wonder what's going to happen to us. This is the time to be objective. Look at the passing scene with understanding, but without emotional reaction. Don't react emotionally to the unpleasant or the challenging conditions that come and go. And that's one thing to remember. Even though they emerge, they will go away. Nothing will last forever. All of the conditions that are not troublesome will change. So just be patient while the changes occur. But while changes are occurring, don't allow yourself to be psychologically damaged. Don't despair. Don't be unhappy. Don't be afraid. Don't become pessimistic and cynical. Stay spiritually aware, conscious. Use your imagination to see ideal possibilities. Make sure that you are living the way you know you should live. Make sure you are maintaining your wellness program for your well-being, your physical well-being, and your emotional and mental well-being, and harmony in your family and among your work associates and your neighbors. Make sure you are doing your part to contribute to the harmony and well-being of the world where you live. And at the same time, bless other people who wish for the highest good of other people at all times. Not only when you pray during the day, when you pray or you meditate, and conclude your practice with a few moments of thinking about the billions of people on the planet and wishing for their highest good, their happiness, their health, their well-being, their prosperity, their harmonious relationships and circumstances, and above all, their gradual improvement of spiritual awareness. Wish that for them. Pray that they have it. Believe it for them on their behalf. And during the day when someone comes to mind, a friend or a coworker or a relative or someone you read about in the news or hear about in the media, bless them. Wish for them their highest good. And this way you train yourself to be a very positive influence in the world. You become a positive influence. And the more people who are positive, the brighter the collective consciousness of the planet will be. So I frequently am asked this question: how can we relate to a troubled world and work to improve conditions of the world? We can work on ourselves. That's the important thing. And also, we want to include health of our planet. We want to be good to our planet, not pollute the atmosphere, and do what we can to help the planet be healthy, because it has to sustain our lives and the lives of all living things. So it's amazing when you look at nature and you see the incredible diversity of life. And on the planet, we are provided with fresh air and sunlight and food and opportunity for creative expression. So on Earth may not yet be heaven or paradise, but it can be a much better place for everyone, for us and everyone, when we do our part to live constructively and to love and bless other people, and to not only show them by our own example that it is possible to live effectively with a spiritual orientation, but we can encourage them to do likewise. We don't have to struggle to convert them or change their thinking, but first demonstrate to them by our own lives how life can be lived. and then encourage them to experiment for themselves. I remember Paramahansa Yogananda, my teacher, telling me that in the 1920s, when he was lecturing in the United States, it attracted large audiences of 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 people at a time. A man came to him after one of his talks, and he said, "Sir, I enjoy being in your presence. I enjoy hearing you speak. But how do I know that what you teach will be of value to me?" And Yogananda said to him, "You live this life, you try it for 6 months, and then come to me and give me a report." And that's the important thing, to live it. In Buddhism, there is the statement that a person who lives the ideal life will know or understand the doctrine, understand the teaching. We can't really understand it unless we live it. We learn about it, but when we live it, then we have our own experience. And I remember my teacher, Paramahansa Yogananda, telling me, he said, when your powers of discernment are well developed, you will be able to read anything and examine anything without being confused and to have understanding. I mentioned earlier that when I first talked with him, his advice on that occasion was to read a little, meaning read worthwhile material. Read a little, meditate more, think of God all the time. 3 weeks before he died, or left his body in 1952, I had my last personal visit with him. And during that occasion, he told me many things about his personal life and his personal experiences through the years. But his final instruction to me was this, and it is suitable for anyone on the spiritual path. He said, "Don't allow your mind to be troubled by what other people do or don't do. And don't look back, meaning don't live in the past. Don't be distracted by looking here and there, but look straight forward to the ultimate aim of life, which is self-realization and awakening completely in your present lifetime, and you can do it." And that's good advice for everyone. Don't be disturbed by what we observe, what happens. It's temporary, it will pass. Don't live in the past, especially don't have regrets and be held back by painful experiences and memories of trauma and so forth. Don't be easily distracted. Stay focused. Live right. Have the ideal of cultivating and expressing your innate spiritual qualities, wisely using your intelligence and your powers of your creative powers to accomplish useful purposes, and to awaken completely to self and God realization or complete spiritual enlightenment. And it can be done. Remember, I said earlier that it is a matter of destiny. What is destined cannot be avoided. Everyone will sooner or later completely wake up. So I wish that for you. I know that is true for you too, that everyone here in this room today will eventually wake up completely. And I pray that you will awake, it will be very soon, that it will not take a long time. And I recommend that you be optimistic and believe that for yourself, and then allow that optimism, that belief, that conviction to support you and to motivate you to live right and to experience the fulfillment you deserve, and to share that understanding with your friends. Until next time, God bless. I've enjoyed our time together. I hope you have a good day.